from reading American history, the one thing you run into over and over is that civil rights movements and movements for human rights in different areas, whether it's for labor or just for different things that people should have that, like, the people on top have. These movements are always started by people of color and or poor people, is what it seems like. And then the movements only really pick up and become more widespread when white people get involved or white wealthy people get involved. And this is something you'll see over and over. And it's also the same wealthy white people who will stop movements from happening and do everything in their power to try to stop what's happening, which is, what happened with the Black Panthers. But other white people being like, hey, what do we do? I'm like, we need to figure it out. Like, I've already figured out, like, go research and figure it out and look at how Black people have defeated different types of fascism in our country over and over and survived genocide. Same with Native Americans. It's us that are supposed to be doing things, because 2 years ago, when I was seeing people of color talking about the fact now marching on the streets, we're not going to go protest, we're not going to be out in the public eye doing things. They are the first people that the police, the militia, anyone like that, they would be targeted first, which is exactly what did happen. Because if there's white people protesting, they're not, now we don't have really the protection of white privilege when we're protesting, but before we definitely did. Like, everything I'm saying, people of color already know. This is more for white people. Been time to step up, but it really is time to step up. You can get involved in actually a difference, or feeling like you're making a difference. And it's important, I think, to get involved too, not just because that you're not neutral, but also because when you invest in your community, you become more connected, and then like that kind of just like has a ripple effect on your life. White people too, we've been really disconnected and ripped from feeling community or having any sort of egalitarianism, like in our individualist culture. And there's pros to being an individualist culture, but one of the cons is that there's really we're bad at community. That's really what it comes down to, because from my perspective, we haven't done it for so long. I think white people associate like multi-generational housing with people of color. It's implicit and they don't realize that's what they're doing. That's the connotation that they have. But that's been shown between like being in a 2-parent household versus a multi-generational is probably better for children, because there's more caretakers, and the domestic and the child care load can be more evenly spread. I was actually explaining this the other day to someone, and I'm going to try to use an analogy to make it easier to understand. But I, as a white person, will never be an exception, because I am always living under white supremacy. So there's just no way I can never be completely an exception or a complete outlier to white people, my privilege and my skin. The exception and the patriarchy, because they are always under the patriarchy. No matter how much a man has deconstructed the patriarchy, they will always be living in it, living with the privilege that they do in the patriarchy, so they can never completely be an exception. Just like how I, as a white person, can never fully be the exception, because I'm constantly benefiting from my privilege and living in white supremacy in a way that it's benefiting me. in some ways. We're not saying that white supremacy is like, there's actually detriments that it gives to everyone, but hopefully that analogy makes it click a little bit more.